If you're divorced or separated here in Alabama, you know that dating again can bring up a ton of questions. And maybe one of the biggest sources of anxiety is about having overnight guests when your kids are with you. It's a really common worry. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what the law says about it.
So let's just dive right into the big question. You're moving on with your life, you've met someone new. So, when you have the kids for the weekend, can your new partner spend the night? Well, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It actually all comes down to a specific legal rule.
The legal idea that controls this whole situation is often called a morality clause. You might have seen one in your custody agreement, or maybe you're worried that one could be added. So let's get a really clear definition of what this thing actually is.
Okay, so here's the rule at the heart of it all. It's a special condition that gets put into custody agreements, and its job is to stop a parent from having a romantic partner stay the night while the children are in the house. Now, the stated goal is usually to, protect the kids from potentially inappropriate situations.
This, of course, leads to some really important questions. Are these clauses just automatic? And what are the real-world consequences if one is broken? Or what if you think it's just an unfair restriction on your private life? Well, the answers aren't in some textbook. They're found in what happens in actual court cases. To see how this really plays out in the real world, we're going to look at two recent cases from the Alabama Court of Civil Appeals. What's fascinating is that both are from 2020, but they have very different outcomes. It really shows that these clauses are anything but simple or standard.
The two cases are Phillips versus Phillips and Davis versus Davis. In the Phillips case, the clause was put in place during a really hostile divorce. But in the Davis case, a mother fought back against a clause that the judge just considered standard. Looking at them together really reveals how the key legal rules work in practice.
So the timeline in this Phillips case is pretty eye-opening. The husband asked for the clause, and the court puts it into a temporary order. Then, when the husband thought the wife was violating it, he actually hired a private investigator. The PI came to court and testified that the wife's boyfriend did stay over when the children were there, and in the end, that alleged violation was a factor the court looked at when it awarded custody to the husband.
The Phillips case makes the stakes crystal clear. Ignoring a morality clause can directly impact who gets custody of your children. But that brings up a really fundamental question, which the Davis case tackled head-on. Can a court just impose one of these clauses without a specific, proven reason?
In the Davis case, the trial judge made a pretty bold statement. He basically said that a morality clause is always in the best interest of the children. This idea reflects a really common assumption that these clauses are just a standard, automatic way to protect kids. But the Alabama Court of Civil Appeals, well, they had a very different opinion.
Yeah, the higher court stepped in and corrected that assumption. They ruled that a judge can't just impose a morality clause based on their own personal feelings. To put a restriction like that in place, there has to be actual evidence showing that the parent's behavior is specifically harmful or detrimental to the child. That's a huge distinction. And that ruling brings us right to the single most important principle in all of family law, the best interest of the child standard. The Davis case really forces us to ask what that legal phrase actually means in the real world.
The best interest standard is supposed to be a shield for the child, not a sword for parents to use against each other. It means that every single decision a judge makes, from who gets custody to the rules for visitation, has to be based on evidence of what will actually benefit the child's well-being. It's not about punishing a parent for their private life.
So what does this all mean for you? It means a morality clause isn't automatic. If your ex wants one or wants to enforce one that's already there, they have to be able to show specific proof that your new partner staying over is actually harming your child. The whole focus shifts away from personal judgment and onto proven negative impact.
Okay, so we've covered the legal background, the cases, the whole 9 yards. Now let's bring it out of the courtroom and into your reality. If you're dealing with this issue, what are the practical steps you should be taking?
All right, here are 5 practical things you can do. First, read your current order. Know exactly what it says. Is there a morality clause in there? What are the precise terms? Second, always focus on the child. Think about their comfort, their stability. Third, document everything. If you believe your ex's behavior is causing harm, suspicion is not enough. Just like in the Phillips case, you need actual evidence. Fourth, understand the stakes. A court order isn't a suggestion. Violating it can have huge consequences for your custody case. And finally, number 5, get professional legal advice. This is a guide, but every case is different, and an attorney can advise you on your specific situation.
So after going through the law and these real-life cases, what's the single most important thing to remember? Let's boil it all down to one final takeaway.
This is the absolute core of it. The court's job isn't to be the morality police. Its job is to protect children from proven harm. So when it comes to your private life, the legal question is never, is this behavior right or wrong? The only question that matters is there evidence this behavior is actually harming the child?
So we'll end with this question for you to think about. When you look at your own custody situation, are the rules in place truly focused on your child's well-being, or are they maybe leftover tools of control from a past conflict? Knowing the difference is the first step in protecting both your rights and, most importantly, your child's best interests.